watching all of the Pierre Poilievre rallies over the past couple of days, you see he has a lot of really good ideas, and he's very good at communicating them. But another thing he has is his wife. We finally have an actual power couple in Canada, something that we've never, ever had, or at least not in my lifetime. Welcome to my channel, y'all. I hope you're having a great day. Before I get into talking about some of the announcements that Pierre Poilievre has made on his recent rallies and press conferences, I just want to touch on one thing that I think gives him an advantage over a lot of politicians. Matter of fact, probably any of the Canadian politicians in my lifetime, and that is Anaida Poilievre, his wife. He actually has probably the only power relationship that I've ever seen in Canadian politics. His wife could probably, after he retires, take up being a politician herself and do very well at it. So before I play any Pierre Poilievre clips, I just want to play this clip of Anaida introducing Pierre at a local rally and get your opinion. Is she possibly future Prime Minister material?
Penticton, hello, what a pleasure to be here with the entire family. Thank you. Well, Penticton, Canada, here we are in a crucial time where we must decide whether we're going to elect for a fourth time a government that has weakened our economy, left us with unaffordable food and housing, rising crime, and vulnerable in the face of the threats of Donald Trump? Or are we going to elect a conservative government who's going to put Canada first for a change? Well, this journey began for my husband and my family 3 years ago when he decided to run for the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Ever since, my husband has been traveling from coast to coast to coast so that he can step away from the Ottawa bubble and the elite to be on the ground with Canadians and to hear directly from them. Oh boy, did we hear about what's going on the ground. Because what we need, ladies and gentlemen, it's a government of the people, by the people. Leadership is not born in the boardroom of the elite. Leadership is not born from fancy titles and degrees. Leadership is born from the love of our country, true patriotism, our true north, strong and free. I heard that, boots not suits. And yes, my husband has actually been doing this for way more than 3 years. He has been here in Canada all along fighting for our youth, our families, our seniors, everybody. So when Mr. Carney looks down on my husband because he has been here all along, I have to tell him, if you're seeking public office, then you ought to give the respect it deserves, because fighting for Canadians is an honorable endeavor, ladies and gentlemen.
So I didn't want to spend too much time playing clips of Anaida, but I did want to give kind of a sense of the fact that she is a really good public speaker, and she is a real benefit to his campaign. She's a conservative, obviously. She's been involved in politics. She's a far better speaker than Mark Carney or even Justin Trudeau was. So yeah, maybe there is a place for her in future politics in Canada. Right now, though, her support of Pierre is, I think, one of his biggest strengths. He has a great family behind him and people who support him. And that, I would say, is a lot more than Carney has. Obviously, I don't know Carney's relationship with his wife, but when you see them, he's always walking in front of her. He doesn't seem to really respect her, and she doesn't seem to add anything to any of the things that he's doing. She's just kind of there, and she's not very interesting. And, well, Carney's not very interesting either. But this video is not about Carney's bland personality and how he treats his wife. This video is about what's been happening on the campaign trail and Pierre Poilievre in particular. I tried to actually sit down and watch a news conference that Carney was doing earlier today in Victoria, and I would rather watch my grass grow. I will probably watch it a little later. It hadn't started, and it was getting fairly late in the day, so I'll watch that a little later, see if there's anything at all that is of interest. But I'm going to go on a limb here and say that he probably didn't give us too much. So let's go to a press conference that Pierre did in Surrey, British Columbia, where he talked about the addiction problem in Canada and how he plans on fixing it.
Before I go any further, I want to talk a bit about the enormity of this problem. Imagine if the entire city of North Vancouver vanished from the face of the earth. That's what happens when 50,000 people die. It's like a city like a mid-sized city in Canada vanishes off the face of the earth. We've lost 50,000 people in Canada to drug overdoses, more than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. And thousands more continue to suffer, living in misery as fentanyl takes control of lives. Every single death is an unspeakable tragedy. These are our neighbors, our friends, our brothers or sisters, our children. They had their own lives and their own dreams. They were little babies once, and their parents looked at them with promise in their eye. But maybe through a wrong turn, maybe through an injury they treated with an opioid just to relieve the pain. Or maybe on a night out when they were just having a few drinks and were offered something that was supposed to make the night a little more interesting, but was laced with a deadly poison in the form of fentanyl. Their lungs stopped and they were gone forever. During the lost Liberal decade, we've seen this problem metastasize out of control. It's not that the Liberals have failed to take action. They have taken action. They've taken a lot of action. They caused this crisis. They decriminalized crack, heroin, cocaine, illicit fentanyl in partnership with the NDP government. They provided millions of dollars in tax-funded opioids, which spread on our streets, were resold to children, and the proceeds used to buy more deadly fentanyl. They removed mandatory jail time for mass fentanyl traffickers, allowing the monsters and mass murderers who brought about this crisis and profit from it to be released from prison with very little penalty at all. They set up drug dens in otherwise safe communities where addicts are fed dangerous drugs, then children in nearby neighborhood schoolyards are forced to step on dirty needles or encounter other drug paraphernalia. The Vancouver police have pointed out this problem, and yet the Liberals refuse to listen, going further to expand these radical policies. Policies, I might add, that are not done anywhere else in the world. These are radical and extremely bizarre social experiments. And British Columbia has been the ground zero for this massive, deadly Liberal failure. British Columbia is probably the worst place for fentanyl overdoses in the world as a direct result of Liberal NDP policies.
When I was growing up in the Lower Mainland from the 1970s, we moved here when I was 8 years old in 1972. We really didn't have all that much of a problem, or at least we didn't see that much of a problem. Yes, there was drugs back then. Of course there was. But there wasn't drugs to this extent. And really, even through the 80s, the drug problem was growing. It didn't explode the way it did under Justin Trudeau and his radical policies. It's almost like he was trying to destroy the country from within. And in that sense, he actually did a better job than he's done at anything else he's tried, including being a failed school teacher, a failed snowboard instructor, a failed surfing instructor, and a failed prime minister. But enough of that. Let's go and see what Pierre Poilievre plans on doing to fix what the Liberals broke.
I'm here today to announce that a new Conservative government will fund recovery for 50,000 Canadians who need it. Let their loss not be in vain. To fund this program, we will end federal funding for opioids, defund the drug dens, sue the opioid manufacturers and consulting companies who created this crisis. We will eliminate back office bureaucracy, and we will fund directly those people who need the help through groups that have success in delivering drug-free outcomes. And make no mistake, we will be shutting down drug dens. We will ban drug dens within 500 meters of schools, hospitals, daycares, playgrounds, and other places where the community is vulnerable. We will, let's be clear, these drug consumption sites do not work. And I'm going to quote the Lancet Commission study on this right now. There is no evidence that accessing a site lowers an individual's risk of fatal overdose over time, or that sites lower community overdose rates. We owe it to our fellow citizens who are still struggling with addiction to offer them a real chance to avoid adding to that terrible number of losses we've had already. We will expand access to recovery services with proven track records. These organizations, like the Oak Centre in Winnipeg, or Harvest House in Ottawa and Atlantic Canada, or Last Door Recovery, Together We Can, Cedar Recovery. These organizations have proven track records. They will be the ones that get the funding. We will set up a different kind of funding model than you've ever seen before. Normally, governments receive applications that have all the right buzzwords, they fork over the check, and afterwards a report is written. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is as long as all the paperwork is done. That ends. Here's how we're going to run our drug recovery program. Organizations are going to be paid a set fee for the number of months they keep addicts drug-free. And they will be paid more for harder cases. So if someone is a casual drug user and trying to break the addiction before it becomes serious, the funding might not need to be as much. It could be 10 or 15 counseling sessions for that person. But on the other hand, if it's an extreme addiction with someone living on the street for multiple years and on the verge of dying, well, obviously more funding would be needed for that. But the funding will be paid to organizations that successfully get people off drugs. Those organizations and interest groups who have been contributing to and complicit in the distribution of high-powered opioids and the harm production programs will be cut off, and they will be totally ineligible for any funding whatsoever. We need to break the addiction that these organizations have to keeping the crisis going. We're going to build it out based on the Alberta recovery model, which has shown a 40% reduction in the number of overdoses in 2023, more than 3 times what has happened in BC in that same time period. We will ensure that the Canadian people have hope that we can break the addiction and free our people from its grip.
Now I ask you, isn't that a more sensible plan? Try to get people off drugs as opposed to giving them drugs, enabling them to stay addicted. I think this plan is a lot more sensible. And Pierre has a lot of sensible plans. Now, I don't want this video to get super long, so I'm just going to go back to a rally that he held in Penticton a couple of days ago. and talk about a few of the things he said there. In particular, I want to talk about his approach to firearms and crime, as well as reestablishing freedom in Canada and rebuilding the military.
I still got to get to this guy. This guy over here had a question about gun crime. About gun crime. Raging out of control. You know, the Liberals, first of all, they allow 99% of shipping containers to enter our country uninspected. They don't even allow CBSA to monitor our border in between official border crossings, so anyone can walk in or send a drone over. 82% of gun crime is committed by people who have illegal American guns. And the Liberal solution to all of this is to ban Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle. Someone who has a restricted possession and acquisition license, or a PAL, is the least likely person to commit a crime. Because criminals don't tend to go out and get a license for a gun, right? Don't say on the way to rob a bank, well, I better get my PAL before I do it, because it's against the law not to. The people who have registered or restricted licenses or PALs, they have RCMP background checks, extensive training. They've been tested. They have to follow safe storage rules. They're the most legally compliant people you will ever meet. So my plan, here's my plan. We're going to ban gun criminals instead of banning licensed, law-abiding Canadians. We will secure our ports with 2,000 more frontline CBSA officers. We'll have high-powered scanners that can look into shipping containers to intercept drugs, guns, stolen cars, and more. We'll have watchtowers that can surveil the entire span of our border, and we will pay for it by canceling the ridiculous multi-billion-dollar Liberal gun grab on licensed hunters and sport shooters.
Now, I can certainly get behind that. I am obviously pro-legal firearm ownership in Canada. And history has shown that when governments start seizing firearms from honest citizens, that bad things start to happen. So you do have to wonder, why were the Liberals so hell-bent on taking firearms out of the hands of citizens? Was it because they were planning on doing something, maybe something orchestrated by the WEF, that they didn't want people in Canada to be armed so they couldn't rebel against? Not that Canadians would, but you just kind of have to think about that. But the real reason was probably because they wanted to buy votes from people who lived in big cities, who had never even touched a gun, and who are falling for their propaganda and believing that it's the firearm instead of the actual person who commits the crime. But carrying on, what does Pierre think about restoring freedom in Canada? It's good that he's restoring freedom for gun owners, but what about other freedoms? Maybe even freedoms that are more important than gun ownership.
We're going to reestablish our freedom in this country. We're going to be the freest country in the world. We're going to give people back control of their lives. We're going to remember that we don't work for anyone in Davos or Manhattan or any other faraway place. We work for Canadians first. We will repeal the censorship law C-11 so Canadians can speak freely. And we will remember that if we have freedom, it is only because of the courageous men and women in uniform who defend it each and every day. We will fund our military, fill all the vacancies, recruit our soldiers, sailors, and airmen. We are going to have 4 new massive icebreakers that are going to bust up the ice and keep our dominance over our Arctic waters. We will have new fighter jets, new Poseidons, new landing strips in the north. And we will have the very first Canadian base in the Arctic since the Cold War, CFB Iqaluit. We'll massively expand the cadet corps as well. Do you have the cadets here? Yeah, the cadets. Any cadets? We need more kids in the cadets. Learn how to fly a plane, get your flight hours in, learn how to, learn outdoor survivalism, riflery.
Just think about that. He actually wants to teach people how to shoot guns, not like the Liberals who want to take all guns away from people. This is far better for freedom. Teach people how to fight for their freedom, to remain free, not just to be helpless and rely on the government. I like this plan. Let's carry on.
Discipline, warriors, that's right. In fact, our entire military will be rebuilt with a warrior culture, not a woke culture.
How can you tell the crowd doesn't like the woke culture? And they shouldn't. It has pretty much destroyed Canada in the last 10 years, and probably even a little bit before that, but definitely in the last 10 years.
And we will honor our history again. We will put up our statues. We will recognize our heroes, including John A. Macdonald, the founding Prime Minister of Canada. The reason why the radical Liberals want us to forget our history is because you cannot control your future unless you know your past. We know that you need to understand history. We need to inculcate the great lessons that are passed down to us. This country of ours, these blessings we enjoy, it didn't just fall out of the sky. It didn't happen out of overnight. It's based on 800 years of tradition that goes back to the fields of Runnymede in England. That's where we got our system of freedom under the law, of parliamentary democracy from. It took hard work from a lot of people who are not here anymore. It's one thing to criticize the decisions made in the past. It's also one thing to say that we've never been a perfect country. But we should be grateful for this country, and we should honor its proud history and the people who made it possible. So we're going to put the famous five, Terry Fox, our soldiers, and all of our other heroes back in the passport. We will once again be a self-reliant, strong, sovereign people that harvests its resources, trades with each other, builds homes for its youth, protects its vulnerable, secures its borders, honors its elders, and looks forward with optimism to the future. We're not a nation of tax collectors and toll masters, of bureaucrats and busybodies, of gatekeepers and grandees, rulers and rule makers. No, we are a nation of adventurers and artists, explorers and entrepreneurs, workers and warriors, pioneers and patriots. We will build on what binds all of us together is the Canadian promise, that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything. And so that promise goes out today to everybody who's listening. If you are that single mom who will go to bed hungry tonight wondering how you'll feed your kids in the morning, have hope. Change is on the way. If you are the 55-year-old couple who doesn't know where your 20-year-old has gone, having been addicted to drugs, hang on. Help is on the way for you too. We're going to bring your child back. If you are that military veteran wondering how you're going to be able to pay the rent for the rest of your life, have hope. Change is on the way. You will be thanked for your service. And to all of those who believe in Canada but wonder what happened to our country, I'm here to say that change is coming. We are going to restore the Canadian promise so that anyone who works hard gets a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street, protected by brave troops under our proud Canadian flag. Canada first, let's bring it home!
So that's just a little bit of a recap of the last few days on the Pierre Poilievre campaign trail. There's lots more. He took a ride in a supercharged Corvette. He went to a Soyuz. He talked about how the Liberals are cooking the books and all sorts of other things. But one thing that I can say for sure is he's the type of leader that I want in Canada. I don't want a banker who almost ruined two economies and who's taking credit for a lot of things he didn't do, who's plagiarized his thesis back in university and who's also kind of plagiarizing all of Pierre Poilievre's ideas on the campaign trail. Yes, I will cover some of what Mark Harney says in the future and maybe even what he said yesterday during his press conference or rally in Victoria. But as far as having electric crowds and saying stuff of substance, I don't think we can really beat Pierre Poilievre. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you think. Put your comments down below. And while you're at it, please like this video, share with your friends and on social media. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video. Also, please join me on Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time on both YouTube and Rumble for my live stream, where you're invited to join in on the conversation. Finally, if you reside on Vancouver Island and you want to get your firearms license, I teach the required courses. There are links in the show notes of this video to my website where you can sign up for one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.